Thank you for tuning in, and welcome back to the Sandwich of Coherency podcast. So let's go ahead and jump right into it tonight. Today is October the 6th, 2021, on a Wednesday. And in the past few days, there's been some interesting things happening in the news. According to the Department of Homeland Security, as Mayorkas has put it, they are expecting up to another 400,000 migrants coming into the state in the month of October alone. Now, this is after just recently stating that turns out there were actually 30,000 Haitians that actually broke through into the United States, which is almost doubling the original numbers that they gave. Now, so far, they're saying that 8,000 of them have been deported, 17,000 are applying to stay, and 2,600 of them are still missing. So we'll wait to see how this goes and what will come out about this information in the next couple of weeks. But as far as they're saying right now, you could be looking at up to another 400,000 migrants coming in. I guess BlackRock buying all of those homes to turn into rental properties over the past year, well, they'll actually have some purpose coming in handy, it seems. Now, one of the things that I want people to understand is that recently people think they've been really focused on giving all control and just simply complying with everything that's being told to them. People are losing. Again, I go back to this. People are losing this ability to think critically, and they're so willing to jump on something they will miss what's really playing out in front of them. So recently, you've had, I think her name was Frances Haugen, supposed to be a Facebook whistleblower. Now, on the cover of what she's saying, that Facebook promotes, hate speech, is good for profit, and all these, and, a lot of the stuff she's saying is what people want to hear. Those are the things that they know that people want to hear. They spend millions of dollars each year to study the psychology of how people will react to things. You can go back to a few years ago when they admitted to, during the time when they put out, was it the filter for France, to put that over your picture, they admitted that was a test. They admit that they've been doing those to see if they could get people to comply with it. How easy would it be easy to get people to comply with something, whether or not they had the full details, because they knew they could play at the heartstrings. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes. So on the surface, it looks like this woman is coming forth and she's basically giving people what they wanted. But the reality is that she is actually someone who, as time and time again, has been known, even through her own words, to believe in government oversight. She wants government control over these things. Even as she said, when she was doing her big reveal, putting the blame of what happened on January 6th on Facebook, being responsible for that. And therefore, because of that responsibility, the government, in a sense, needs to step in and tell them what to do, to take control, to be able to look after what people are saying and what people are thinking. People say, oh, that's a good idea. But now we got the other leaks. Somehow, Elizabeth Warren was accidentally released, stating that the federal government is working with Google to issue keyword warrants, meaning that if you look for certain things, you will be passed off to the feds and they will begin an investigation into you to see what your connections are to either different things or whatever. But it doesn't matter, because the whole point is that they have a list of words to choose from that they don't want you to look for. They don't want you to look up certain things. Now, they're going to probably say, oh, yes, this is for people looking up things on how to make bombs, how to make weapons, and this and that. But that's how it begins. And next it becomes thought. People looking up certain words that should be commonplace to speak in public. Well, we don't want you having those thoughts or speaking those words. Anybody who has read 1984, as cliched as it may sound to have that brought up, doesn't change the fact that it completely applies. Now, the reason that I brought up Frances Haugen is because I wanted to go in something that happened prior to her coming out on 60 Minutes that is not getting as much traction as it should, which, in my opinion, is of a bigger issue. Now, Lady Miss Davis, who was a representative of Facebook, appeared before the Senate by video call because she refused to go into the Senate floor, even though she was, as it was put, a few blocks away. Now, she got slammed, and part of the reason for that is because Facebook held research into the effects of the platforms on the populations. Now, a lot of this was suicide research. And what they found is that 13% of UK users and 6% of American users, okay, all female. These are 13% of female. I want to say teen young adult female users, as well as 6% of the same category in the United States, said they can link their suicidal thoughts back to the things that they've seen on Instagram and on Facebook. And according to Ms. Davis, this is not bombshell information. This is according to her. These are her own words. Now, as she was being questioned by Ted Cruz about this, as he's quoting this from the Washington Journal as to what the research was, she pointed out to him that that was a misunderstanding of the research and gave numbers of being 0.5%. Now, she was specifically asked if they were going to release the research. She pointed out it was only 2 parts of the study, and they're looking over the other parts of the research as to which ones they will let the public see next, pretty much. And she was asked specifically, are you going to release the research? As it was put, how can we understand the research? As you're saying, we don't understand the research properly. How can we look at it and understand it if you won't release it for us to see it? Now, she was asked specifically, were they lying when they printed the numbers of 13% and 6%? And she refuses to answer that. She gives them these political jargon answers to avoid having to answer a yes or no question. That's one of the clear signs. This is bullshit, because she basically stated that Mark Zuckerberg was aware of this study. He was aware of these results. Obviously, the company was aware of their own results, but refused to do anything about it. Refused to do anything about something that they knew. And I wonder, and a much bigger problem, because this traces back to, well, how many suicides can we possibly find that were actually linked to this? This is a larger issue than what the whistleblower, whatever you want to call her, the basically industry plant, and anybody who's familiar with that term understands exactly what that means, because that's what she is. Facebook is working for more censorship. They've been working to censor the people over the past few years, and it's been obvious. So her coming out and saying these things that should encourage more government censorship, or rather encourage more censorship on the platform of Facebook, is exactly what they want. Now, I'm not sure if a lot of people noticed this. Whilst Facebook was down, Instagram and WhatsApp were down, or rather shortly after Facebook came back on, if you may have noticed, you probably couldn't, for the first little while, get into your own pictures. As well, you couldn't look at any other pictures. So it's possible, and I think a lot of people should probably scroll through and see what you find. You might find a lot of the things that are being considered compromising material might actually be gone. They might have had an algorithmic sweep. But hey, that's just speculation. So who am I to say? Now, the last thing that the whistleblower is taking your attention from, which I want to talk about tonight, is the fact that Ms. Davis stated during her testimony when she was being questioned by Senator Mike Lee, that Facebook does not allow advertisers to target adult themes to children, which includes no sex or weight loss. All right? Now, nothing that can be considered adult content, according to them, is allowed to be presented to children. But what came out in her during this her questioning is that the Technology Transparency Project, the TTP, you should definitely look up their research, came out and said that she basically lied to the Senate. Okay, so she basically, and I believe these are under oath, maybe I'm wrong, but she basically lied to the Senate, perjured herself, however you want to call it, because the TTP actually ran an investigation to see if Facebook would allow those things. So one of the things that was on there, which was approved by Facebook, was an ad targeted to teen girls encouraging anorexia. It even offered a website that they could go to find tips and encouragement and help them to fulfill their goal of being anorexic. Now, that's just one. And they had a whole slew of them. Some including going out and making a love connection. Find your special one and make a love connection. Now, these are targeted towards children. Now, according to the TTP, they did not push to have these run, so they did not actually expose children to these. But what's important is that Facebook allowed it. They approved it. Which means if they wanted to, at least the number given, about 9 million children would have been exposed to an ad that encouraged anorexia and was willing to help them on that dangerous health journey. But hey, Facebook doesn't promote these things to children, and you shouldn't question it. What you need to be focused on is giving Facebook more control to censor what people want to think and say, including in your private messages as such, but doing it at behest of the government, allowing the government to send down rules of what they should and should not censor. Now you're probably wondering, oh, that can't be bad. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. They're just trying to keep us safe. Okay. Well, tell that to the people in the many countries around the world that find themselves being arrested for simply wanting to go protest or saying things that the government doesn't approve of. Oh, I'm sure you've seen the videos of people in Canada. The cops just walk right in. They don't need a warrant. Why? You said some things on the internet. Well, we didn't like them. So now you're coming with us. You've seen it happen in Germany. You've seen it happen in England. You've seen it happen in France. You've seen it happen in Australia. You've seen it happen in New Zealand. But hey, look. It's just like they always say. Well, they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't do it right. We are going to show them